take any money for the position. It's to be volunteer. And you can vote on the budget, but you couldn't vote on any
I don't like being interviewed.
I was being interviewed.
Why did you run for school board?
I didn't think I was gonna have to be interviewed by the papers twice before it started.
No.
I just feel
Maybe
like
more than that,
I'm
the way you
totally
filled out
awesome.
questionnaires and.
No, I'm
there's like
talking about
6 or 7
public
Thank you so much.
interviews, like
in videos.
videos,
Okay.
yes. Cause it's really fun when you're like CFO goes, hey, I just saw you on the news. Like, oh, that's so cool, thank you so much.
Good time.
I don't know, is Chris moving in or is he coming?
He was calling,
He's gonna call it?
I thought so.
Okay.
I thought that's what he said when he was here, he said he was gonna.
Caitlin? Or Dylan?
Dylan.
I was like,
Caitlin.
there's 2
Looking
Chris's
at
right
you,
here.
I think.
I was just thinking for the nose.
Too many Chris's, too many Matts.
I'm a Morgan.
Dylan is
The
supposed to
tri-Chris
call.
stuff.
He is gonna call, okay.
The tri-Chris factor.
Yeah, we walked in tonight, there was 3 of
But
us.
I can text him and make sure.
Okay, yeah, cause that's really weird that there's 2 Chris's and so I'm just saying, it's the,
He says
And a
we're
Morgan.
live.
And to me, don't forget me,
And
Sarah,
Morgan.
come on.
Morgan.
there's a whole bunch of M's and C's.
I mean, I guess 50-50 chance
50,
you
I was
could call
gonna
me
say.
Chris or Morgan. Chris or Matt. Chris is technically a unisex name.
It is.
It could be a
It
Chris.
definitely could be.
I don't think I'm fit to be a Chris though.
You could all.
I'm a Morgan. Not gonna share that with you guys.
I'm okay if you don't share that one. I like Chris.
I don't think you want to be Morgan.
No, I don't. I don't like being Christopher because it usually means I'm in trouble.
Ooh, yeah. That's the hard part, like none of my kids have, Sully does, but none of the other kids have like shortened
Well, it's
names.
down below too, so I'm just.
So, I like, when I say their full name, it's not like they're in trouble,
It's just,
it's just their name. But then, my oldest goes by his middle name. So if I ever were to call him his legal first name, then he'd probably know he's in trouble, cause he knows I hate the name, so I.
all right.
Encroaching on me.
We'll try not to.
Okay.
All right. Let's call the meeting to order at 6:33. We shall do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Proof that public notice was given.
Notice was given.
Thank you. Item number 4 has virtual member participation. It is not needed this evening, as all board members are present. We will have some of the administration calling in this evening, so Chris Dillon may be calling in this evening. The other administrators are unavailable because the date of the standard meeting was moved, so there were conflicts, so we will work through with what we can tonight, and anything that we can't or don't have answers to, then we'll just table and move to next month. Okay, next. Public comment. We have only one public comment. I don't need to read the restrictions because you are well versed in them. Niels.
Hi, Niels Peterson. I wanted to comment, I saw on the agenda, and it was a pulled out policy from some NEOLA updates. Specifically, it was 5136.01, which is technology resources. I know the board just approved the 5000 series recently, because I was reviewing it. And the option that we had settled on in the PPC committee was a different option than the one that was now being updated to. And we talked about it in PPC about why we selected the option to allow kids to have their phones coming to school and going home from school in case of emergencies. The new option restricts that and says no phones whatsoever. And I was wondering if the board in their discussion could talk about why they're moving to that new policy and restricting kids from bringing any communication device to school, or hopefully clear up if I'm misunderstanding the option that was selected versus what was selected less than a couple months ago. Thanks.
And that's it for public comment. All right. Next is the consent agenda. Since we have new members on the board, welcome. I'm just gonna read this. Consent agenda, provide a consent agenda listing of several items for approval of the board by a single motion. Most of the items listed under the consent agenda have gone through board subcommittee review or recommendation. Documentation concerning these items has been provided to board members and the public in advance to ensure extensive and thorough review. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member. And I will reiterate that it does not require a second or a motion, only a request. The only thing that I would ask before we go to the consent approval would be if someone would be willing to read aloud the donations. Morgan,
Why are you looking at me?
welcome to the board.
Right?
How would you like to do it this month?
I would love to, since I was involved with them.
That's kind of why I chose you.
Is that a problem? Okay. So there were 4 donations from HLEF, which are the 3 micro grants. 4K had transportation materials, which were Magnetiles. 4K had dramatic play materials for 180, which are dolls and manipulatives. And then the HLEF is sponsoring the 8th grade photo booth at the 8th grade promotion party. So they gave $250 to that. Then there is $500 for jumbo magnetic tiles at North, which I believe were in the newsletter that you can see. And then there is also an 8th grade promotion t-shirt donation from Michael Rodenbaugh for $400. So thank you so much for almost $680.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. At this point, if no one has any requests to pull anything out, I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda items.
Motion to approve consent agenda items.
Second.
You said it.
I second that. Okay. Member McNulty seconded. Is there any discussion?
Can I ask a question?
You may, it's discussion.
Okay, so for the personnel report, I know that previously we had shared like names and such. Why are we not doing that anymore? I understand that this file has salary, so I'm not asking to share that. But I feel like to be transparent with people, the names and positions should be shared.
I would suggest that we pull that out to talk about it
Okay,
in detail. If you're not
I don't
comfortable.
need, I mean, that was my only question. I'm not like,
Oh, okay.
I don't have any question about the people or anything. I'm just asking why we don't share that information.
I'm not 100% sure. I believe it has to do, because it has to do with specific names of personnel and employees. But that's why it's in the executive portion and not the public portion.
Okay. That's fine.
If you have more, we can pull it out. Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Aye, by the way, sorry. Forgot to say it myself. Okay, committee reports, number 7. Finance Committee.
Can I give my, I'm gonna cover Amy since she's not here, can I just give mine, the Director of Business Services report then? Is that
Yeah,
good?
put them together.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense. PPC.
I would also like to shift ours down to the line items below. They're actually under new business. The policies that were pulled out and that were there.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Especially since those are going to probably have decisions along with them, so I'm okay with that.
So I can give just a brief update of what those are before we go down and talk about it a little bit. So before we go into individuals, we were given an updated list of policies for the 2000, 5000, and 6000 series. There were minor tweaks and changes on certain things. And then we pulled out some that we had questions that we wanted to make sure we didn't put them in that same bulk area. So those are also pulled up on their own line item below, so we can discuss those when we get down there as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, for district updates, Superintendent Bowman is unable to be here tonight. I did have a conversation with her ahead of time, so I can give a brief discussion update on the second item, which is on transportation. But I want to ask first if Matt Schwab or Chris Hagman have any additional information to provide from the last meetings that you had on transportation. If you don't, I'll provide what I know.
I don't, sure, they were supposed to have some discussions on proposals they were making, with changes to the schedule and things of that nature, but it wasn't concrete, and it was, and I don't know the outcome of it, so I never,
Okay.
so I don't know.
Okay, I guess from my side, I can say that there was a interweb of everything going on as we uncovered the onion and started peeling things back. It wasn't as easy to make that transition as fast as we wanted to, so some of these things have been delayed, unfortunately, just because of the legal side of what we have found so far. But it's still in discussion, it just isn't going as fast as that process was supposed to.
So in talking with Superintendent Vogelman, Chris is absolutely correct. The transportation program is a large program, and I'll say this for the public that's here so that you're aware. It's roughly $500,000 transportation program, and it's more complicated than us just controlling it ourselves because we're involved with contracts with other districts and then contracts with Dousman as well. Those contracts also don't align in the same contract year for when they expire and must be renewed. And so because of that, it's very difficult, like Chris had mentioned, there's a lot of different layers and things that go into it. And because of that, and some of the things, like Matt mentioned, with the schedule change in time, these things take time to do. And we haven't, the administration has not had time to go through them all. And so what they're asking for, and the proposed transportation plan that was provided in the executive content, is really a status quo. It's to maintain the same transportation procedures and protocols and requirements from this school year in the next school year, to provide the administration more time to work with the local districts, with Arrowhead, and with the provider to come up with something that's really customized for us, because we want to be very careful that we don't limit children's ability to get to school and that we provide equity in transportation for those kids. So that's the update that I have. Do you have anything more? I thought I saw your hand.
Sorry, no.
No, you're itching. Oh,
No,
so it's good to see you.
I'm like just shaking up. I'm good.
Unless I missed something, nothing was,
I know nothing.
there's nothing attached though, right?
In the executive content,
Yeah, there's,
there's oops, I clicked it twice. There's the proposed
I think
transportation.
Amy did make something today
It's
that
to
should be
approve it.
attached.
Yes.
Just to approve it.
So
Moving
it's,
forward, status quo.
In the bottom, was it in the bottom section?
no, it's
Yeah.
in her discussion with the superintendent.
if perchance you're not logged, you might not be logged in,
Logged in.
you can get pushed out, if you're timed out by board docs. And if you're timed out by board docs, then you can't see the executive content. I've had that happen to me too, where I'm in, leave my computer, come back, and then I'm
So
missing the
basically, I
attachment.
guess, what's gonna happen,
There's kids here.
I think nothing's gonna happen, right?
No,
it's just basically the same as last
I
year.
think
It
it's
is.
status quo.
So the
Yeah.
proposed plan that's in the attachment is to continue with services as agreed upon previously for the 25-26 school year.
Okay.
So it's no change, it's the same requirements, the same pay structure, and the same availability for students to ride the bus. So in essence, if you were comfortable with the transportation program last year, save the fact that we don't have an improved suggestion at this point, it's the recommendation of the administration to continue with the same program that the board approved last year during the transition.
Could you remind the people about what
Yeah, can I read that final paragraph?
Yes.
The 2024-25 transportation plan included leaving all routes as from the prior years, but the students who are now deemed not in a hazardous zone were bused. The cost of $110 per student and up to $330 max per family.
So that's what we're deciding.
Correct.
That's the policies, that's fine, thank you very much. Does anybody know, there was some discussions with Dousman about redoing some routes and maybe being able to eliminate a couple of buses. Each bus is about 25 grand as I understand it. Do you know if that's?
There might be a tiered improvement for us, but that's on their end. It's not necessarily anything from the board
I get that.
approval at this point.
Right, I get that, but you don't know the details on any of that.
I don't know the detail. I did find out that the time changes weren't going to be allowed for this coming year. And I talked to Superintendent Bowman, she had said that couldn't get worked out in time.
What
Any
about,
kind of time
there was
changes.
some discussions about,
Priority, yes.
what do you mean priority?
The tier, so I think we
No.
were tier 3.
But if we moved up in tier, that would change our time, so I don't think there could be a tier move.
Maybe it's consideration for tier 2 then.
Well, they were trying to do that, but then I thought they were looking at ways to eliminate this busing here.
Yeah.
And they could do better routes and potentially have at least some of the elementary schools bus different than, and do you know if that's unable to have,
I think, if I may, I think there's, because we're still that right, we're talking about tiers, and we're being this primary school, and the other schools are kind of taking advantage of that nice tier 2 as we're tier 3, and we're talking about figuring out how to merge those. I think that's still in talks, but they have not come to a conclusion on what that looks like. Part of it is.
So that could still change next year, or do you know?
Not well, it really depends on what they're looking into at the end of this year and now with what we have for busing students, from what I understood, but I don't think they came to a conclusion yet, so I would have to hold off to Amy and Tina, and they've had any meetings since our last one that we sat down with them, but I know it was still in the works.
Okay.
As they're trying to find.
And just so that everyone knows, the reason why this recommendation is before us now, we could potentially push it out another month. The challenge is then it makes it difficult for us to communicate in a timely fashion to all the different families about busing and having families make decisions. A survey went out this week asking families about bus participation, and if we delay another month, which we could do, it just makes that communication a little bit later and a little bit more difficult for families.
And there are 3 options at the bottom there for us to decide from. One is keeping it the same, the other one would be changing prices, and then the third would be changing who's bused due to the hazard zones, but that may reduce this may reduce a route or 2 for Hartland-Lakeside School District. But that's the 3 options at the bottom of the page.
So if we motion to approve maintaining status quo, the possibility of increasing safety, we're not afforded that opportunity for another year?
No,
I don't know about increasing safety. There's
With the main goal being from moving away, excuse me, trying to move away from having students transition between buses.
I don't know the specific answers to that. I don't think there's any major structural things that could take place without a whole lot of other groups agreeing to it. It's not like it's something that this board can push and require at this point, because we are under these contracts.
I think and if I may,
Yeah, please.
sorry, I didn't mean to jump. I think we're pushing for that safety piece, and that's a big portion of why we're driving this in the background. I think we're just running into the roadblocks with the busing company and timeframes, and so I think that's still a focus of safety for the school district, and I don't want to go away from not having those, or not go away from the safety things that are there. But part of that process is hitting roadblocks, and that's where we're at now, where we would like to make a decision. And this year we were supposed to make a good transportation plan transition, but I don't think we're ready for that transportation plan. So we're still finding out all the details of what's involved in that, with that consortium and everything that's there.
There are small steps that are being taken. Not sure if you knew, but like as an example, when the buses come into the middle school, they're now shut off. they're no longer running. So there are small procedural things that can still be improved between the contract, but really what's in front of the board is the decision on how we're gonna operate with what we can control, like the three things that Chris had mentioned, whether or not the pay changes or whether or not we change any designations for students to ride. And because we don't have this total planned approach right now that takes everything into consideration, the administrative, again, recommendation was just to leave the plan in place from the previous year. Doesn't mean we have to, it's just the recommendation.
Well, the things I'm concerned about are the safety and the timing and that's not what we're approving.
That is not.
So, I mean, this is really just, are we gonna charge people who are in these?
Right. This is who can ride it,
This is.
what's their territory, and how much are they gonna pay? And because we don't have this full consideration plan developed, again, the recommendation is, look, just leave it status quo, don't create a lot of noise for something that's not finished yet. So, if I don't hear any more discussion, is there any motions on the table for a proposed transportation plan for the upcoming year?
I'm still confused, this is, I'm calling lost, but where's this on the agenda? It's under the superintendent piece.
Yeah,
Okay.
transportation.
Fair enough, okay.
I would motion to continue that the plan is in place for 24-25 and the 25-26 school year as presented above with no cost increase per family.
Can we repeat that last part? For the 25.
As is presented above per with no cost increase per family.
So the motion to approve to keep plan in place for the 2025-26 school year for no cost increase for family.
Correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion? Before we vote, Mr. Clerk, could you read the motion back one last time?
Yes. Motion to keep the plan in place for the 2025-2026 school year for no cost increase for family.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to section 9, Director of Business Services Report, monthly finance report.
Sure, so I'll start with kind of the stuff Amy typically goes over for the
Excellent.
financial statements.
Thank you.
So Fund 10, which is our general fund, we received tax deposits to the tune of $164,000, some additional school funds of $80,000, $25,000 in grant funds that our insurance paid on the water damage claim at North. So we received a reimbursement of $54,000 there. Do you remember what the deductible was? We had to pay the deductible still, so we were out 10 or 15, I think, it was 10.
Yeah.
10?
Yeah.
It was 10.
Dang.
And then,
Much better than the whole thing.
This is
then interest on school saving, or on our savings account was $28,000 in the general fund. Commentary expenses are kind of on track. Commentary from, the committee, we reviewed expenses. We didn't see anything goofy. One thing the district does is because our fiscal year ends June 30th, and obviously we're at the end of the school year, is that they kind of shut down purchasing that April timeframe.
Yeah, so that things arrive within the 4 to 6 week, so that they can
it's
count
the
it in this
invoices.
fiscal period.
So it gets pretty light in spending for this month and next month because of that. So we did look at that as a committee, and every spending looked good from our perspective. Special education funds, we got some grants for close to $100,000 in Medicare reimbursement. We had to pull from the general fund, $203,000 this month. That's not unexpected, but that's kind of how we fund any shortfall in special education funding, is pulling it from the general fund. No money was taken from our capital improvement fund, Fund 46. Interest there was $6,000. Food service, we got some basic aid, and daycare revenue and expenses in Fund 80 are tracking as expected. So that's kind of the financial statement picture. Thank you. A couple of the other things we addressed in the finance committee. We've got quite a few projects going on over the summer to maintain and improve the buildings, which again are all budgeted for and funded out of our general fund, not pulling from our capital fund balance. We voted a month or two ago on the playground mulch at the 4K, getting rid of that rubber junk. That's gonna start the second week of June, so right after the kids get out of school. Also at North, the roof replacement's gonna start at about that same time. It's a big dollar, it's close to $300,000, I believe. Again, paying out of general fund budgeted for that, so we'll have a new roof on that building by the end of the summer. We're also getting some new flooring in some classrooms there. Big expense at South, the kind of external doors, and we're not replacing all of them, but we're replacing a large number of them. They're the sets of kind of outdoor doors that have to be electronically locked. There's a lot involved in them. Each set of doors is like $15,000 to $20,000 for doors. We're replacing a lot of them. So again, budgeted, paid for out of operations. Replacing the gym floor in South. Across all schools, both internal and external cameras are being replaced. We're doing some painting. So a lot is gonna happen over the summer, again, funded out of general funds, not pulling from our capital fund balance. Talking about that capital fund balance, one thing that I thought they might be ready to bring to the committee or to the board, what it wasn't here, is that we've been looking at quotes from 3 different vendors to come in and actually do a facilities assessment to help our 10-year plan. We've been working off a 10-year plan that was put into place by whoever the building and grounds person was prior to Greg, and it's quite old. We're probably 3 to 4 years left in that plan, and we've done some stuff and some stuff we haven't done, but records at the school are not that great, so Greg really has no idea, like, how old's this air conditioner unit? How old's this? You know, what's the lifespan? So we've gotten some quotes for companies to basically come in and look at everything and, you know, tell you you've got 5 more years on your roof here, and if you need to replace this roof, it's gonna be $500,000 or whatever. So they're gonna give us both kind of assessment of what things are and estimated costs, so we can kind of plan that out. And it's a fairly nominal amount, so I don't remember what the 3 quotes were. I think last one was close to like 5 or 6 grand. Maybe one, the high end was 10 to 12 grand. So I thought that was gonna be on the agenda this month, but it's not, but it's something we've talked about. Chris saw a couple of quotes before he got off the finance committee. We got one more last month, so I know we have 3, so I hope to see that next month, so that gets started. As everybody knows, we have a new business manager starting. Hoping, I don't know if that happened, we're hoping to see if he can show up at the next finance meeting, just so we can do a little transition, introduce Morgan and I. I was part of the interview team when he got his last interview, seemed like a good guy, so excited to work with him. So that's kind of it for finance committee and the, whatever you call it, business service update. Does anybody have any questions on those items?
Usually around this time we talk about food service. Was that talked about in finance on what we have left to collect for food service, or are we doing anything extra to catch up with that?
No, I mean, to elaborate on what Chris said, I mean, we've attempted to better chase families who let their food balance kind of lapse and go in the negative. Generally, we get more quote unquote aggressive with folks who are leaving the district as 8th graders, because typically people who are still here, it just kind of rolls over and they remember over summer that they were $50 in the hole and they throw more money in, whereas if somebody leaves, you kind of gone, so I don't know where that sits. We didn't talk about that, but that's a good one to check it for next month.
The only question, I had two questions. The roof, since that's gonna be happening in June, how does that get paid out of this year if the invoices are hitting after, do we know?
If work is completed by the end of the fiscal year, then it would be,
It's still counting, it gets paid after?
yeah, you would put it in a liability account, like you're gonna pay it.
Okay, thank you.
I think since they've started, I don't know that it would be done by. end of the
Yeah,
year.
then you would expense a portion of it, then you
Okay,
would know.
I just wasn't sure when you said earlier that they were
Oh, cutting off.
cutting down on the expenses, so invoices and that came in, that's why I thought, oh. But I didn't
I mean,
know.
I could be wrong, they could be pushing it all to July 1st, that's not something, but typically that's what you would do,
Okay.
is expense.
And then just the other suggestion, and we'll talk about this more later when we talk about the meeting that you were at last week about the district-wide assembly, but do you think it makes sense? I would guess that a lot of these other smaller schools are probably in the same situation we are. And I wonder if it's worth maybe reaching out to them to say, hey, are you interested in doing
In the facilities
a
assessment?
facilities assessment? And then maybe we can go back to this person, the best bidder, and say, listen, how about we give you 3 schools, can we get a deal?
It's not a bad idea. I did think a little bit about that.
Yeah, it was something I think you might have brought up when Jeff Smith was talking about the roof stuff last time.
No, that's a good
Yeah, I
idea.
didn't remember that in that first meeting.
And again, we'll talk about that more so the public understands, but just something to think about.
Okay, there's one other item then
Oh.
under the business service, which is discussion and decision on the audit services. So basically, I think Amy or whoever has attached the contract, the proposal is to basically use the same vendor accounting firm to do our audit. The pricing is maybe a modest increase from last year, but it's pretty much in line with what we paid last year, so Amy is looking for a motion, or I guess I'm looking at Amy's place, a motion to approve that contract. So,
Would you like to start with the motion?
sure, I can make a motion. I will make a motion to approve the audit services contract as presented in the agenda.
I'll second.
Sorry, presented in the
Agenda.
Any discussion?
I would just like to bring up, maybe not now, but requests for proposals on new audit firms, since we have been with this firm for quite some time. It is industry, whatever you wanna call it, to rotate auditors. I just wanna put that in everyone's parking
Are
lot.
you proposing for next year, is what you're saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, going
just
forward.
looking at what it would do for a request for proposals.
I don't disagree.
That's a good suggestion. And just so that everyone knows too, is again, especially for the new, the audit in public schools is a statutory requirement to be done on an annual year. So it's not an option of if we can do it, we have to do it. What we're looking for is a specific approval tonight from the motion on the floor to approve this particular proposal. That's the only, it's more of a clarification than a.
Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
I did, Chris. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the 24-25 audit services as presented in the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda. Let me scroll down here. On the safety drills. These are drills that have to get approved annually. They're in the executive content. They're not shared with the public just because of the safety considerations. And it is showing that there are plans in place at each building. And the request from the administration is for the board to approve the safety drills and plans as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the safety drills as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the drills?
Do we need to have them updated since it says that it was reviewed by the school board on Monday, May 19th in the letters that are signed by the principals? Since it is not May 19th that we are discussing.
Probably a good idea too. I didn't notice that.
That's true. The board meeting did move.
So
We could,
I know that sucks to have
we could
them sign it
request,
again.
well, what we would need to do then is have either a motion to amend the motion to approve it with the understanding that the documents will be updated to reflect the updated board date.
Cool.
Are you making sense?
Yes, I'll make that motion.
Cool. Morgan has motion. All right, so,
No, cool.
just so we don't go down a rabbit hole here. Morgan has motioned to amend the main motion to approve the safety drills report as presented with the understanding that they will be updated to reflect the correct board date of May 22nd.
With understanding.
Don't give it a second.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
The correct board date is amended,
It's
correct.
May 22nd.
it's made.
Alright, so caught up?
Motion to approve the safety drill report as stated, with the understanding the correct board date is May 22nd.
It's a motion to amend the main motion.
To
I will second that amended motion. Any discussion? All those in favor of amending the main motion to reflect the May 22nd board date? Those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion carries to amend the main motion to approve the safety drills as presented, with the understanding the dates will be reflecting the May 22nd date. That is the main motion on the floor now. All those in favor of approving the amended motion, sorry, I have to say this carefully. All those in favor of approving the amended motion of approving the safety drills report as presented with the understanding it will be updated to reflect the board date of May 22nd, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? The motion carries. You got all that, Chris?
Yep.
Gotcha. All right. Super. Next. Item B, social studies. So I spoke with Superintendent Vogelman on this, and the recommendation is from the administration is for the board to approve the new proposed curriculum that went through review by a committee. And it's to provide consistency of a program rather than just classes to meet DPI requirements. As it was explained to me, we previously had been teaching courses that are in compliance, but there was not a complete curriculum. And that the committee went through, reviewed different curriculum options. This one was on cycle to be updated anyways, so it made sense to wrap it under a full curriculum proposal for social studies. So that's what's being presented to the board this evening.
question, I know we have a proposal, is there stuff that this takes place of that falls off? Or is this just an addition?
If I remember from the conversation correctly, this will become the new social studies curriculum. So if there are a particular class or something that's there now, this curriculum would replace that entirely.
Okay.
And then again, as you saw in there, that it went through the committee review. I'll just read it out. So there was an executive team, professional staff members that were part of the curriculum review team, Michelle Plank, Crystal Graham, Natalie Burnside, Heather Bogey, Ashley Quick, Miranda Stone, Heather Whalen, Dave Risch, Sarah Bleckenheim, Tina Vogelman, and Michelle Schmidt. So it went through a full review of that committee, and that is their recommendation for the full curriculum review. Or for the social studies curriculum, excuse me. Hearing nothing else, I'd be looking for a motion to approve or deny the social studies curriculum as presented.
I'll make a motion to approve the social studies curriculum as presented.
I'll second.
Any discussion on the motion to approve the social studies curriculum? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the social studies curriculum as presented, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next, discussion and decision on the PA bells and clocks system. I believe at this point, we will have Chris Dillon
Who's gonna call in?
join us. Chris, if you're listening, we're looking forward to talking to you now.
Not the two Chris's that are in this room though.
That's right, the other Chris. Thank you all for bearing with us.
It's a good one. Picked a good one.
Please enter your conference number followed by the pound key. You are currently the only person in this conference.
I was gonna tell you you were in line or something.
I can try calling him on the cell phone too, come on. We can use that and do speaker.
Calling music.
Gretchen, you want me to just try calling?
If you want.
Yeah.
I feel bad though, cause he like set this up.
Let me try calling him. Yeah. I'll see what he says on here, if he wants to jump into that or put him on speaker. Mr. Chris. Okay, he said you can try calling him again on it.
On
And-
this?
Yeah, do we want to just call you on there or call into the, okay, he said you can hang up and try conferencing it again. And I'll tell you what, if it doesn't work in a few seconds, we'll just call you back on here and we'll do speakerphone, it'll be fine. Okay, thanks. Yep, bye-bye. Beautiful thing with technology is there's always workarounds.
Hello?
Hello,
There we
sir.
go.
You're live.
All right. Sorry about that.
No problem, thank you, Chris. Okay, Chris, we are now at the point in the meeting where we have discussion and decision on the PA bells clocks system. So you're welcome to take it away.
All right, so this is a project that was discovered much earlier this year by our safety team, who was trying to address some issues we were having with our PA system. And as you can tell from some of the documentation I provided, we have some pretty old systems at this point that are still functioning just fine. but are cause for some concern due to their age. And the feature that they were looking for is for, in the case of an emergency, for teachers or offices or anyone in the building able to age by basically just hitting a single button, so that to make it as simple as possible. And with the age of our current PA system, it is only possible to type in a short extension. You then have to wait for a tone, and then you have to punch in a code in order for it to do an all call. Those are precious seconds that could be wasted in alerting in the case of emergency. And so IT was tasked with coming up with a solution to potentially fix that. And we did engage Bunker Technical Services on that to see if there was a way we could retrofit or code or add something to our existing PA to get that to work. And there just wasn't really anything with the age of our current device. And so as we started to look at this from a bigger picture, we decided to look at this more of an aspect of our clocks, bells, and PA are kind of all together to some degree. And is there something we can do to bring those all to a more current? So when we started getting some walkthroughs, we did a bunch of demos. And obviously, as you can see, we got a lot of different quotes and options to go with. But what we really liked was the ability to put wireless displays, which would allow us to warn all the classrooms, common areas, hallways, pretty much everywhere with one button pushes. They'll be able to get messages with information, scrolling text. This can be done from various methods, from cell phones to internet web interfaces. It gives us a lot of flexibility to alert people in the case of an emergency and give them more information, potentially even silently if needed. So as you can see in the room, I did actually put a board in the room so you can kind of see what we're looking at. That is what the board would pretty much look like. The majority of the time, it would just be date and time. But in the case of emergency or drills, we can put emergency messages out, instructions, where to exit, pretty much anything we would like. So the quotes that we got, we were looking for 120 boards to start. 120 boards will get us all of our classrooms in all 3 buildings. It will get all of our common spaces like cafeterias and gyms and offices. And it basically covers all of the primary areas that we are immediately concerned with. And then, assuming this goes well, we would like to reevaluate in the fall after this project is completed to see where we need to kind of fill in our gaps. You know, there's going to be some hallways we want to cover, but we will need to get some electrical outlets put in and stuff like that. So we're really just trying to get what we can done now so that we can kind of hit the ground running with the new school year. The other aspect of these quotes was we split them in with equipment and labor, and that is just because the money that's coming for this project is coming out of this fiscal year, so we know we need to have the equipment on site before June 30th, which will occur, assuming this is approved. And then any additional labor costs we would do would be over the summer, so those costs would come out of next year's funds. And the Innovation Wireless board that you can see in the room there is the one that we propose as I think the best option for us. Not only is it the lowest bid, I think it gives us the most flexibility and gives us everything we need without replacing redundant services.
Can you repeat which one you said? The lowest?
It's the lowest one is the Innovation Wireless from Bunker Technical Services. Munger Technical Services is the reseller that we are using for that particular product.
This may be a really dumb question. This isn't replacing the actual clocks, correct? Like there'll still be.
It will.
Oh,
No, it will. Yes, these will replace all of our clocks at all three buildings.
so there won't be any, is it analog, digital?
Yes.
So there'll be no
They will be
analog
all-
clocks for the students to read time?
Correct. They would all be digital at this point, allowing us to manage them all together on one system. We know we have a lot more clocks in the building because there are clocks in other smaller areas like offices and side rooms. And we will address those with potentially either analog clocks that are part of the system so they can all be managed at another time, or potentially just smaller digital clocks.
So are these analog clocks that we have right now, are those in a power system or are those battery? I'm sorry, that might be a bad.
No, that's okay. No, you're right. It's actually a mix. So, in the building you're in, North Shore, those are actually on a 24 volt system. So there are some low voltage wires that are running those, at South. And I believe North as well. Those are all battery powered. They use D-cell batteries that have to be replaced from time to time.
Okay, and so would we be able to keep any of the analog clocks and add the digital clocks? Like, especially the ones that are battery powered? I mean, my only thing is, kids don't know how to tell time as it is, and if we're gonna take away the analog clocks, I'm not sure I like that. I mean, I love the safety, don't get me wrong, I agree and I understand that we need the safety, but I would like us to consider keeping analog clocks as well.
So if we had the analog clocks, we would be maintaining a separate system. So we have servers and we have hardware that's running in the back that are decades old. I saw some clips from 1996, from when I think they were probably installed. So if we were to keep analog clocks, which is a possibility because they would be on separate systems. However, if we kept them, we would still need to maintain them. And that would obviously come at a cost, and we would also need to probably update those as well.
I mean, I'm not saying that we need like fancy analog clocks that are state of the art, but you know, like the $10 clocks you used to have in your kitchen type thing. I guess that's just something I would like to make sure that is considered and thought of going forward.
So Chris, do you know, are there other local districts that have that system?
I'm not aware of any local schools that have this particular system. I do know that this is kind of a newer thing. We would be a little ahead of the game. I know there are other districts. We didn't get any references from Innovation Wireless. One of the other companies, Visiplex, did have one in Milwaukee they were going to refer us to if we were interested. But the Visiplex product just didn't seem to meet our needs. It seemed very archaic, to be honest. It required consoles in the school offices, and that was the only place where messages could be deployed from. So if I needed to go help someone send something in the office, I literally had to run down to that office to do so. There was no web interface. There was no server that could run on it. So those were some of the things. And then the higher cost ones, that we looked at, they're nice, but they would require all new wiring runs at every single display. There's back-end costs that would inflate those costs even more. So Innovation Wireless, obviously we got a demo of it, and it was clearly the best one that fit our needs.
So from the financial side of things, I think you had mentioned something earlier about it hitting on this school year. Is the money that this would require, was this built into the budget?
So this was not a budgeted project. Amy had mentioned that these were funds that were end of school funds that were remaining from budgets or from projects and quotes that came under costs, that we would be able to fit this project in and get the whole district done in one shot, as opposed to potentially budgeting for and doing one building at a time per year, and then delaying this project over the course of 3 years, most likely.
On that point, recall at the end of last year, we budgeted for like 250 grand to go into the capital fund, and we made that. We did not budget for any money to go into the capital fund this year because of the roof and some of these other projects, but yet, like the roof came in under budget and some other things. So I think, as I understand it, what Chris said in talking to Amy is that this was not budgeted for, but it's a need and it is something we can afford under this budget without going sideways in the budget. I mean, the hope was potentially at the end of this year, we could have a discussion and say, hey, you know, we budgeted for 16 million in spend and we had 15.5, and we put 250 again into the capital fund. Well, maybe we don't able to do that, but maybe we're able to expedite a capital improvement here with this sort of this kind of thought process.
Okay. Matt, do you know, was this, the PA system, the bells, et cetera, was that on the initial 10-year facility priority plan? And the reason I'm asking is if it wasn't identified as an emerging need, why is this all of a sudden being prioritized now?
I'm looking, I don't remember if it was a line on that or not. I mean, Chris Dillon, do you know how this came about now? Is this, I think you said a little bit at the beginning, you guys were investigating.
Yeah, this really came about from our safety team, as they started to ask about some of these features that, you know, could we implement them, and due to the age of our systems, we could not. So we started looking into this, and yes, it was not a budgeted item, but it was something that we wanted to really sort out and make sure we're doing the best we can, because it was identified as a high priority safety item.
Thanks.
Are there any annual costs or ongoing costs for the system?
So some of the other quotes did have some higher end costs, as much as $5,000-6,000, I believe, per year. The one we were looking at, Innovation Wireless, does have a 10-year license for the FCC because it's a wireless unit, and that runs a little under $600 every 10 years. Beyond that, there are a couple line item options that tie into our phone system in order to be doing the paging, but we're talking about a few $100s a year, and we may actually already have that licensing built into our current subscription, so we may not even need to worry about those either. So annual costs for this system are very low.
Can you talk a little bit about the wireless? And I live in a world where wireless goes out all the time. What does that look like for this system? What's the backups to keep it up? What does that entail for this system?
So this system does not run on your typical, what you think of wireless, like wireless internet. This is using low frequency wireless, which is why it does require an FCC license. So it's not reliant on the network to run, but yes, it is reliant on power. And if we needed to keep them up at all times, they would require battery backups, which would be substantial. And at that point, we would be looking more for something like some type of generator at that point for our buildings if we needed that kind of backup solution.
So
to your point, if the power went out briefly or something like that during something, as soon as the power comes back up, they instantly connect. They don't need to be reconfigured. They don't need to reconnect to the system or anything like that. As soon as they power back up, they will reconnect to the transmitter.
Okay, so currently with our system right now, I'm gonna go with a long-term power outage of, a couple hours. does our current bells and systems work, or you can page and make announcements over it, or are those all down?
Those all would go down right now currently as well.
And that's the same with this system?
We do have battery backups in place for, our servers, our network, our wireless infrastructure. So we do have some time to basically prevent any small outages, short outages. We can keep our wireless network running for 10, 15 minutes, in most cases. And then our servers a little bit longer before we have to start shutting stuff down. But we are fully reliant on batteries for our for our power backups, as we don't have any generators in place in any of our buildings.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any other questions for Chris? If not, we can let him go and then just have board discussion and go from there. Anyone?
No, sounds cool.
I think so. No?
Thanks,
Okay,
Chris.
thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
See ya.
So we're still at general discussion. There's no motion on the floor at the moment. Does anyone have any comments?
Just the analog clocks.
I have a personal thought. Again, it hit me kind of, I wasn't prepared for it. And wasn't sure with it not being on the facilities plan that it's here. And if it was something where it was ESSER funds or something where those funds expire, I think I'd be more in support. But I'm a little nervous about, well, we have some money left over, let's spend it. And I don't know if it's necessarily, is it the right answer? I don't know. I mean, I could say, well, let's put bulletproof glass in every classroom and in every window. That's good for the safety. When we're facing potential years of financial trouble and declining enrollment, I don't know. I'm just saying this, it was hitting me fast. I was checking just some quick math. If the communication protocol is the main reason for it, you could get a really nice two-way radio for $250 and give one to all 120 placements. And it's gonna cost the district about $30,000. You don't have to worry about it going down. Kids can still learn how to read it. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that, I'm just talking out loud so that we have more discussion on it.
I'm trying to think of that because that's one more thing that the teachers have to hold on to. Or know where, like I'm just trying to, whereas this would be up on the wall, every kid can see it. If the teacher's having the emergency, the kids can then know how to use it. Which, yes, they would probably know how to use a walkie-talkie, I understand that. And maybe they won't know how to use this. I'm guessing they don't know how to use the current system. I don't know what the protocol is if a teacher has a seizure or a heart attack or something. I don't know most adults that know that, speaking from experience. Like, just, I would think that anything that makes it easier for everyone involved in the cycle would be a nice thing, but I understand what you're saying with just because they have the funds doesn't mean we have to spend them.
I guess the one call feature to, if there's an emergency, to get things in action seems like a good investment. The fact that our existing analog clocks and bells and system is 25 to 30 years old. We could spend 30 grand on radios and still need to get new clocks and everything in 2 or 3 years.
I'm really sorry, but we're not allowed to talk with the public. Sorry, it's more of a listening session. It breaks my heart to say that you have no idea how hard that was to say. But unfortunately, we're not. The board meetings are for public visibility. And at the public comment section, you're able to comment at that point. And we truly encourage and would welcome you to follow up with us by email or phone after. If I could do it, I would love to. You have no idea not being able to address you.
I was just gonna say the teachers told us the protocol when a teacher has a seizure.
Oh,
perfect.
Thank you.
That's what I assumed he was gonna say.
Thank you.
And I kind of sit in a world of timing, right? We talked about a facilities plan that we're kind of updating our 10-year, and that's probably coming up here shortly, but we're trying to spend right before that hits. Is there other things that are more important, or would this fall into that category? It's just the timing piece of it that I kind of struggle with, because there's a dollar amount going out the door prior to finding out where the other dollar amount should really go, if we've got any big red flags that are out there. So I see the importance, and I think it's important, it probably is on that plan that's out there. Just where does it file into that category that's there?
Matt and Morgan, you guys are finances.
Yeah, I haven't had a real good chance of diving into our finances.
No, but I mean, as far as financial rules and regulations and how things carry with, fiscal years and that.
Well, he said it right.
So what if that money doesn't get spent, and we have a proposed budget that's fixed for the upcoming year, and we determine through our strategic plan and facilities outlook that this is a higher priority. The money doesn't disappear, it just goes into the general fund. Is there anything that would prevent the board from taking action at a future date and approving that?
No, I mean, if we have, my example I gave a few minutes ago, if we have a surplus of $500,000, whatever the number is.
Yeah.
We don't have to do anything with it. Your general fund can carry that from year to year. So basically, we would just have more cushion in 25, 26.
But I mean, there wouldn't be anything that would prevent us from going outside the budget and dipping into that fund to approve an expense.
The general fund.
The general fund, correct.
I guess I'm not following the question.
So let's say we approve a budget for 25-26, and it's X.
Okay.
This isn't in it. But then through the facilities planning, a little bit more research, we find.
It'd be the same, we'd have the same discussion we're having right now.
Okay.
It would basically be,
We can approve the.
this can come up every single month for the next year. We can have the same discussion and figure out if we think it's the right time or not. You know, it's like, but since it's outside the budget, this has to happen. Like the parameter within the budget is, I think the district can do stuff like up to about like $5,000, I think is the number. They can do expenses up to $5,000 without bringing it to the board. Once it gets above that, it has to come to the board. If it's in the budget, I think they have to, like with the roofing thing, like since they budgeted for it and we approved it, I don't know that they actually had to bring the roof to us for us to approve the roof.
I think they had to approve the proposal, the vendor.
We had to approve the vendor, but not the spending.
Correct.
Yeah.
Because we already approved that.
But this is like, we have to, since it's, it's 67 in labor and 98 plus $100,000.
And about 166. And again, those other licensing fees that are so
Yeah,
minuscule that, just say 166 and we're pretty close,
But it also is split between 2 years, so we could put the 68, that's the labor, into next year's budget that we're building.
I think it would be.
Yeah.
It would be.
So it would just really be that 98. My only other thing would be costs increasing due to timing, economic things happening would be, correct, it would be the only thing you would wanna take the chance of, okay, is this something that we might actually be able to save money on that we're gonna do eventually? This might be the lowest, but if you do that with everything, then you're gonna have a stockpile of crap in a room.
No money left.
Yeah, right. So I mean, that's kind of a moot point, but something to think about because it is such a big expense.
I struggle with adding technology that doesn't have a fail-safe either. Like with no backup during a power outage.
But there's no
it's a
backup
lot.
now.
Exactly, so why update infrastructure with the same infrastructure?
It's fair.
And it's new, right? No one really has any of these to talk about, so, well, it's cool, I think that makes a lot of sense, and it'd be great. The dollar amount scares me that same thing, we might be missing something that's there without being able to ask somebody how it's working, have they had any issues that were out there. I'm almost reluctant just because we don't have, and not that we don't have finance here, but we don't have, Amy Hawley really just hammer down on, what were we under on budget for so many things? Was that $20,000? Was that $50,000? $120,000? What was that we're spending? And maybe Matt, if you do.
I don't know precise. I know at least as we were sitting there looking at April financials, it's looking good that we're gonna have extra money in the general fund beyond, we're gonna spend less than we budgeted, or we're gonna bring in slightly more revenue than we spend, or, whatever. We're gonna end up with some level of a surplus, but it's obviously moving target until June 30th, what that is.
So I guess with all that, I almost would feel comfortable, and this is just what I'm talking out loud, would be sending it back to committee, going back next month with that, plus that information regarding what our surplus was, or what we were under on budgets, and then reevaluating it. And maybe we have the facilities proposal to look at, and what that covers, and maybe it doesn't cover this, and we want to get that in there, but that's kind of where I'm sitting right now.
My only other thing, that I like that idea, but the timing of when we can get the equipment, if we're wanting it to get in this year, we're not meeting until June 13th. That's not gonna give us enough time
Well,
to
we
get.
won't have the facility plan won't be done,
No.
you know, we're not,
Right,
no, we won't
so-
have that until sometime this summer, I would
Right.
guess, even if we said go today, they're gonna have to get people out here and do their work, so. I mean, if you guys wanna wait to the facility plan, I understand it, it's just, this system will not be in place for next school year, so it's.
But if we waited until next month and made a decision to move forward, we just need to
All of it will be in
execute
next
a
year's.
PO and be invoiced.
You have to have the
We
equipment.
actually need to have it.
Yeah, it sounds like, I don't quite get it, but it sounds like.
Otherwise, it would be a prepaid. Cause you don't have the actual.
But since this isn't tied to.
Yeah, I don't know that.
Right, I guess the
funds
timing doesn't
expiring,
really
the
matter.
fund- that's why I asked you guys whether or not we're restricted, because it doesn't seem that it
Unless we
matters.
put it into 46.
So like last year, we had some, if you guys remember, we had to buy, or didn't have to, we elected and voted to purchase some different kitchen appliances to help out, dishwashers and things, because we had money from the federal government that was timed, that had to go towards certain things. That was an example of where if you don't spend it, you will lose it. And I'm just struggling here because this is not a situation of if we don't spend it, we lose it, it's just if we don't spend it, it's not in this budget year. And
No, but look, if we don't do, I don't know how long this is gonna take them, but I imagine it's a fairly labor-intensive undertaking to replace 320 clocks and wires and speakers and all that stuff. I mean, if we don't do it now, it will not be in place for 25-26 school year. I imagine you can't kick something like this off in October in the middle of the school year, right? It would have to, this is something that I would assume has to be done over the summer. It doesn't sound like a 2-week project that could be done Christmas vacation, where you're paying time and a half to the labor too anyway, so, right, so, look, I personally think, given the age and that it's a safety issue, I would be in favor of doing it, but, you know, and people will go out there, vote, make the motion.
Sure.
And so,
I'd be interested to see if there's any grant funding as well. And I don't know how that would be gone about or who does grant research, but I'm assuming that
I
there
would
might.
not be counting on any grant research coming out of the federal government.
Correct, I'm not saying federal, but there are plenty of other private companies or foundations that believe in school safety that may have a $5,000 help. You know, I mean, I think that's always something we should consider with these bigger projects of, is there other alternative funding sources we can get some?
Sure.
Even if it's $5,000, even if it's $500.
Right.
If the time spent filling out the application is worth it, then yes.
So my thoughts now on this are, when Chris first gave us the overview, he talked about our system and that our system is still working. It's just open, but it's working. It just doesn't have the function of this.
I've never.
He did say it's working. And again, with the funds not expiring, it goes back to the other one as well. Again, this is a large purchase and maybe tied to future agenda or a forthcoming agenda item. Maybe this is another one of those situations where we reach out, first of all, I really think we should have some other schools that have the program and find out. And find out what their thoughts are. Has it been as effective and helpful as we think it will be? And how do they utilize it? Do they utilize it for the other functions that, again, we're happy about? Are they using it? We could talk with other districts here within Lake Country. If anyone else, again, if it's this big safety thing, maybe they're interested. Again, and then you increase the amount, maybe we can drive down the cost.
Yeah.
So I'm apprehensive about it approve, my personal position tonight is I'm apprehensive about approving it this evening. Would rather see it go back to committee, have the committee ask some of these tougher questions, do some research, and then come back to the board again with more information that I feel like we make a better decision.
Which committee does that go to?
I think finance and building,
Okay, oh, that is what, that, like, finance is building?
it's kind of been that
That's
way. It's kind of.
I mean,
It's not.
I'm on that, but
certainly not a
I don't-
policy.
No, so we, for historical knowledge, we used to have separate, and policy became policy, personnel, and curriculum. And then the finance kind of came finance and buildings and grounds.
Yeah.
Just kind of by default.
No, that makes sense, I mean, because it's the money.
Right,
Like,
and we're
it's the
a
majority.
smaller district with 3 buildings, I mean, it's not small, but we're smaller. Whereas like the Beast, Arrowhead has more committees because it's bigger, there's a lot more stuff going on.
Yeah, I would motion to push this, you can say that. I don't wanna vote, I wanna push it to next month. I motion to
Send it back to committee.
send it back to committee.
I will second that.
And what were the things that we would like to look at committee? Was there certain specific things or just? Are we okay with just sending it back?
Oh,
I don't know if there's, well, you don't have to put it into motion to come back, the motion is to send it to committee.
Got it.
We can, as part of discussion, we can say that these are the things we would like the committee to look at. I think we should look for references for other schools that utilize it. How well do they utilize it, and is it there just as a safety system, or are they actually utilizing it for messaging, and how long have they had it? How long was the installation process? Because if we decide, say at the June meeting, let's say we decide to approve it, can we still get it in, like Matt said, before the end of summer? What's that installation process look like? I think we should reach out to the other districts and find out if they are aware of the type of system and what type of clocks and alarms and PA systems they have. And if they're either interested or if they have other solutions that they're using, say for example, walkie-talkie, I don't know. That was a total just throw out there as an example.
No, I mean, it's I would think it's a somewhat legit alternative, I just don't know.
Yeah,
But I think you might pick up ringtone
Yeah, you might.
frequencies.
And I think as well, maybe what the actual cost for a backup for a period of time would be, whether it's a 30-minute backup or whatever that happens to be, just to make sure we have an operating system if there are emergencies going on, what that looks like.
For that system, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
the system, in place.
Wait, the current in place or?
No, the
The
one
new
we
one.
yeah.
Proposed. So I don't know, I feel like there's enough.
There's a lot of questions.
For questions here for that committee to look at, talk to administration about, look at the other schools, and then come back the next month. So my thoughts and recommendation would be to vote to approve it, to send it to committee. So that's gonna be my.
That battery backup system might work dual for some of our servers and stuff,
Yeah.
but I just curious what that would be.
Any further discussion? Okay, the motion on the table is to send the proposal for the new system back to committee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Opposed? Nay. The motion carries. Okay, thank you. Next, discussion decision on Neola policies, the 2000, 5000, and 6000 series. You give Mr. Hagland a moment to catch up on typing. I know that quite well.
What, you didn't take me to speak and teach us typing?
Yeah, it was very brutal the last couple of years trying to do that and follow along at the same time.
Then you just get 2 names, so you start mixing up the Matts and the Chris's.
Oh, God, yeah.
Okay. You feel good?
Yep. All right. So what's in the discussion on these policies? These were updates to the current policies that we had there, and a couple new policies that were coming in listed. So the ones that were under the folder, we pulled out 4 of them that we have on the next line to talk about. The other 2,000, 5,000, and 6,000 series we had set to approve. So if there's any questions on those that were in there besides those 4, we could take any questions, but we,
Yeah, a couple questions. First, so we had already approved the 2,000, 5,000, 6,000 in full, right?
Mhm.
So is this was genesis of this was Neola came out with updates?
Yep.
And so
sometimes just
this-
tweaking of words.
this excerpt you gave us is just the ones that changed, so okay, so I get that. Then my only question of one that was not pulled out is policy 561003 talks about expulsion. There are 2 options, or wait, is it 03? There's 2 options to, maybe I don't have the right one. It's 01, it's 01, sorry, 561001.
It didn't look like.
There's an option, there's 2 options there, neither is selected. So I think if whenever we make a motion to approve these, I think we need to make a motion to figure whatever we're gonna approve there.
What number did you say?
It's 561001.
Yeah.
It starts on page
Thank you.
36 of the PDF.
These were really hard to read.
I mean, personally, I would appoint somebody as option 1. I mean, I guess I don't know what we have now on place, but I'm not passionate about either option, we have to pick one.
What I would suggest is it was supposed to be option 1, but it didn't get updated from our notes.
So just make an amendment if we're gonna do that.
If you want to.
Approve it with option 1 selected for that.
Correct.
That's fine.
Just make sure all the ones got it.
So can I just, so 561001 approved option 1?
Yeah, it's just, you need to select 1 or 2
Okay.
options, so I'm assuming we pass this, that option 1,
Okay,
that becomes the amendment or the part of the motion to approve.
okay.
I don't have any other questions, thank you.
So who would be do we need to put in like the blank is designated, who'd you guys put in there?
The other thing we could do is put it back to committee because it didn't get updated.
Okay.
Because we did ask, all the other ones that they were updated, this one wasn't updated, so.
Oh, and you don't have it in your note?
I have it in my notes, it was option 1, but I don't remember what we selected for.
Yeah,
Okay.
I had it highlighted that it was gonna be
And
changed, and I believe it was,
let's see, they're gonna be,
that was Tina, but
yeah, maybe my guess.
these are updates, so we can pull these, this isn't as big of a deal.
And if the
Again, because we already have
update
one.
too could be just small wordings, so the original might already have that selected.
Yeah, where do we have the finalized policies that,
Some are on the website and then the rest are coming, they're working with board docs to get them uploaded. So anyone that wants them, anyone listening, you can contact the district office and they will send you the updated policy. They're still in the process of correcting, cleaning up all the redactions and changes and selections, and then get that uploaded to board docs.
yeah, cause I don't know what the ones currently stand as.
Yeah.
So it's hard to.
So there are some on the district website page.
Right, I've seen those,
Yeah. And then
but
if
these
there are-
ones aren't.
If there's ones that are missing, they haven't made it there yet through the cleaning process and then post.
But you guys approved all the 2,000, 5,000, 6,000s last month. But,
As you can see, there's a.
no, I understand that, but as a board member, I don't have what we've approved.
You still can get them on the old board meetings, so if you do know what meeting it was in, those would be there, but yeah, they should be being brought up.
I'm sorry.
And again, worst case too, you can always email the administration, they can send it to you. Which is what the public has to do until they're live on the site. And I know, just speaking from policy myself last year, going through all of them, there were times where we went through everything really carefully in committee, and then occasionally something would get missed in the update for when we would bring it. And as long as we had the clarification that that was still there, it just didn't make it into our piece, we were okay. So just know, it's a heavy, as you can see, it's 52 pages. with lots of little things.
So since we're on 561001, I have something for 561003. Currently, it only refers to parent or parent of a minor student. And I think to be inclusive of all the different family dynamics in this district, we should change that to parent or guardian or authorized adult representative, just so that foster families, grandparents, siblings, adult siblings that are taking care of students are included in that.
What number are you looking at?
561003 on page 38.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that, I mean, just thinking.
I just think it's
So, no,
parent or legal
I'm just trying to figure out, since we're very formal with these motions, should we send these two back to committee and then just do them and then approve everything else, or what's the easiest way to do
recommend
this? Yeah.
If the other one, if there's a potential that the other four in the next group would go back to committee, then it wouldn't matter to send these back. Because there's already gonna be some way back, so they can't just do a sweep update and it wouldn't move it around.
And my only thing is, if we're gonna send it back, especially if you're trying to switch wording, this might affect more than one policy, so then do we really wanna, so it can be evaluated? I would say it'd be probably better at committee, is my thought on that.
And we can also check them too, because again, the wording is all directly from Neola.
Legal side of what I feel is.
So if we start changing things again, that opens, again, it's, my understanding, doesn't come right, Morgan, is that if we're not changing substantive things, I think we're okay, but if we start changing much, then that.
Yeah, it's just a word choice.
I see what you mean too.
I mean, I would think that we should always be saying parent or legal guardian, not just parent, because that would not encompass every single family. I've got a lot more. I was busy last night. So going to 2270, religion and curriculum. I have the process for requesting and granting an exemption is kind of vague, and I'm just curious if that was discussed. 2270, I believe. Sorry, hold on.
Yeah,
2270.
What page is that?
4?
Yeah, thank you. Just fly faster, go to page 4. Thank you, got it.
Well, actually, I can start with an easier one. On page 5, in the green highlight, you guys crossed off parent and added student or parent of a minor student. And I would just like to know why we would have included a student. Being able to, after careful personal review of the program's lessons and or materials, a student or parent of a minor student indicates to the school that either the content or activities conflict with his or her religious beliefs or value systems. Are we saying that it's not minor students because we don't have any of those when we have minor students? Or are we saying that
I would have to have them reevaluate these.
Yeah, I would,
don't have her answer. But I believe they can indicate it's whether or not it doesn't change the review, but they could indicate, doesn't mean that would be, they get to dictate, if I remember right. I think we'd asked that question, but it wasn't, they indicate, they don't dictate what happens, so.
Because if you read this, the last sentence,
Yep.
it
Right,
does say,
it says it
the
has to
school will honor a written request for his or her child to be
Yep.
excused.
so I
think
just,
it pre-assumes that it's the
I
parent that
just
has to be.
wouldn't think we would want to or need to change it then from parent, legal guardian to student or parent of a minor.
I think it was an option that was on there that they crossed out the parent, because it said parent
Oh.
in the second piece there.
Well, whatever. But again, there's another place where it's parent legal guardian. Okay, and then back to the exemption process, it's not really defined as to, the statement, no student shall be exempted from completion of a required course of study. Because then the next sentence says you allow for exemptions from particular class periods. I didn't write down that.
I just wanted to read it in context, sorry.
I believe it's like 2 under what we were just at, the privacy of students whose parents request that they not take part. Oh, no, it's the same paragraph we were in. Accordingly, no student shall be exempted from completion of a required course of study on the grounds that components of the instruction interfere with the free exercise of the student's religion.
What's the question? I don't know what, I mean, you read it, what's?
It just seems like it's contradictory saying that they can't be exempted, but then we're saying, oh, well, if we do agree with it, then you can be exempted. Doesn't that kind of go against that? Like, wouldn't you say, yes, well, students may not be exempted from the overall requirements of the course. The district may honor requests to be excused from specific lessons or class periods. Maybe that's the same thing, and I just am not a legalese person, so I don't know.
Look, I wasn't part of the discussion. I'll just tell you, I mean, because I do try to read all of these as well.
Right.
I mean, when I read these, I mean, part of my thought process is, you know, we went with Neola because they vetted all this stuff through legal, and we have some level of indemnification from them that if somebody challenges a policy, they will indemnify us for that policy. So I don't necessarily always try to unpack every sentence of something when I read it. Like if I see something that I just think doesn't make sense for our district, I'll raise my hand. I personally, I don't, it's a bit of a word salad what they say there to me. But conceptually, I didn't see anything that gave me pause in this section. So I kind of read it with that, guys. Like,
Yeah, that's
if
fine.
we wanted to clarify that by doing it, we would have to, I don't think the 5 of us here are attorneys to be doing something like that.
I'm
We'd
not
have to have
suggesting.
Brian or his folks, and then we start to open ourselves up to
That makes sense.
liability and stuff like that, so.
I guess it's more, this is the first time going through all.
No, I
don't know any of this stuff.
That's kind of how I do it.
It's more
So
the
it's just,
questions.
it's up to, I don't, but yes, I don't.
Yeah.
Historically, I think that's at least the way that we read things in the past was, we read it for content and what is the policy trying to establish. The wording specific, we didn't get into too much unless it had a significant impact on the outcome. If it seems like something like Matt said, if it's kind of a word salad or just, we kind of left it because that's one of the beautiful things with Neola. We don't have to mess with it. If it was a fundamental policy of behavior of some sort, then we would, yes, push back and either elect to remove a paragraph or get rid of the whole policy altogether. But the wording we didn't usually mess around with much. You still can.
But to your point, I mean, one thing you have raised, which I just never thought of, I mean, your parent or legal guardian thing, I'm sure if you saw it 3 times in this thing.
Yeah, it's all over.
Probably all over Neola. I wonder if something like that, I mean, I deal with contracts at work. I mean, sometimes you have a definition ahead of everything that basically says anytime a parent is referenced, it also means parent or legal guardian.
And that, I would fine with that.
And I wonder if that's something we could talk to our attorneys about to say, hey, can we put in some sort of statement like that as a like that's policy 1, wherever parent comes up, it's parent or legal guardian.
Yep.
And then it's like, you don't have to line item this, 5 million times throughout.
Right, oh, 100%, I agree with that, I
But I
think
agree,
that,
that's a good.
yeah, I just.
I agree that concept should be in there. I'm kind of surprised it's not in this environment.
I'm wondering if there is something, like I said, I don't
Yeah,
have the
you're
full
right, that could be
policies.
something that's defined already somewhere and.
I don't know where that would be. Chris, do you know, since you were on PPC, if there was any definitions?
Hundreds.
We can send it back to committee. I
It
think.
could be in the very beginning.
I mean, I would just, you can
Rules
send that concept
under
back to
bylaws.
Keith and see if there's something.
Yeah.
Maybe a very simple answer that a phone call to Neola would be like, well, yeah, we get that, and it's defined here that everywhere we say parent means this.
So in that case, is that something that you, because I'm just trying to take notes of ones that we might pull,
I
someone might
mean,
motion for, is that something that's
no,
worth sending?
if you guys are, I mean, I'm not suggesting we change like big paragraphs and big words. I'm just asking more for clarification, and if I'm having the question, I'm gonna guess parents are gonna have the question.
Sure.
That, is there another way to explain these things easier for people? I get that these are Neola policies and we don't wanna dumb it down per se. I'm not trying to be rude with that comment, but
Yeah.
make it a more lay term of
Well,
not
I
legalese.
think ultimately if a parent has an issue with a religious exemption or something like that, certainly they're gonna pull the policy, but it's gonna end up in Tina's lap to deal with, and she's gonna articulate to that parent how we address those situations at our school.
Yep.
You know, and then the parent can say, well, that's not what that word salad means, you're not doing it right.
correct.
But at the end of the day, you know, the trust, in my mind, the trust is in Tina and the principals and everybody, the teachers and everybody else to kind of administer this stuff in the classroom and with the parents and.
The first paragraph says teachers shall forward all requests to superintendent, so that would be their step to there, and then she would interpret this.
So it goes teachers right to Tina, or it go teachers to principals?
As far as it goes, teachers to superintendent, because you're making a religious exemption.
Is that pretty common for our policies to skip the principals? Because I thought in some of them, it says go like the teacher, then you go to the building principal.
I think when you start making accommodations towards certain things,
Okay.
you probably wanna have it, at least in my mind, that's.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think
I
other
just-
ones are lower, you want them, they're good to go to the principals, but.
Yeah, that makes sense, thank you. And then I just have one more on academic honesty, which brings in AI.
Which number is that?
I don't know, Chris, come on, don't you know these things?
Not at all.
It's gotta be towards the end. Alright. 5505. I don't know what page I'm trying to get there.
33.
Thank you.
Academic honesty.
Does look like 0-100 as definitions.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So my biggest question is, I see that, that we, on page 34, letter C, we cross off C policy 7540, artificial intelligence. But then on 35, we say C policy 754008. Do we have that policy? And has that been reviewed?
I don't believe that one has been reviewed yet, it's on the docket to come in at some point.
I would think though then we wouldn't want to approve this one before looking at what it's saying us to see in that policy. So I'd like to throw that back to committee or pull that up. I don't know what you do or what we do.
And the definition of it is there's something based on what it is, and then there's a policy coming to define it later on. So this would be the chicken before the egg, right? Which one do you want to come first?
True.
This one just has it crossed off, and then in the future there would be a policy attached to it if we decided to move forward with that policy.
Okay.
That's the definition. I'm not telling you what to do or what not to do, just
No,
the
that,
definition
thank you.
was given.
Yeah. And then my other questions are, how will the teachers be trained to implement and monitor this policy? Because, you know, some may know what AI is and some may know how to look for AI, but if we're outright saying you absolutely cannot use AI in anything, how are we training our staff to monitor that? And what resources are we gonna give them?
I think that comes down to more administrative oversight and not as much board policy. We set whether or not it can be used and in what situations. And then it's up to the district administration to push that down into application and implementation.
But shouldn't we be thinking about how it's going to be applied? And if we're giving them all these big massive tasks and then not thinking how hard it's going to be for them to implement it, wouldn't you wanna think about how hard it's going to be for the people that are actually going to have to implement it?
And that's why Tina sits in on the committee meetings, because she provides her perspective from the administrative side and the district side. So it's not just rogue board members. That sounds like a great idea, not realizing how hard it is for the teachers.
Correct, and I guess maybe that's, I don't know how this works since I'm not in that committee. How do I get those answers? Where do I get that answer?
Discussion with Tina probably,
Yeah,
right?
the implementation portion of a policy for the process and procedure.
So if she was here, I could ask a question right now.
Correct.
So, okay.
But I guess on this point though, I mean, the flip of not having a policy, I mean, certainly I don't think we want the policy that, yeah, kids can use AI for every paper they write.
Right, and I'm not
Just have
suggesting
to-
they
yeah,
should be able to
right,
use it for
so-
everything, but I also think that we're very much saying you can't use it at all. And I'm going to take a big leap and say that a lot of us do use it.
Well, that's like saying, you shouldn't smoke, but you do.
Correct.
We're saying you shouldn't be using it in school grounds, where we have a policy that says that, versus, yeah, we all do it, well, there's no policy that says I shouldn't be, I can't.
And I'm not saying let's let them use it to write their papers. I agree, that should not be.
This is more of as a district we stand on, we shouldn't be using it, according to this. Right?
Without being specifically allowed by the teacher as part of the assignment.
Correct.
So is a teacher at the beginning of the year allowed to say, I'm giving you blank immunity for the whole year to use AI, and that's gonna be okay? According to our policy.
That is gonna be
Well, I think if she
probably up
did
to
that, I would hope Tina.
Correct, no, and I agree, I'm just.
We don't do that. We don't do that at Hartland-Lakeside.
I'm just trying to ask the questions of, then that kind of leads it to.
But if they did, you could then go back to the policy and say, we really don't encourage this year. We have something to go back to.
Okay.
And this brings up an important, it's around your comment, so I can make it here around the meeting, but having an AI presentation for the board is something that I had suggested last year. And again, given just this little conversation, I think it would behoove us to maybe do that. It's been at the different seminars that I've attended over the last couple of years, it's been one of the hottest topics.
Right.
Outside of Title IX, when that was a big issue, that was the number one thing.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess this is more of a commentary of, I would like to know how many students are actually using it right now. Do we have problems with it? I get that's not why you make a policy and all that, I get that. I'm fully approving of the policy. I'm just curious when you bring this up of how to bring resources to the parents to learn about the AI. I get that's not our job. It's just a general question.
I think it
of-
starts with a conversation with the superintendent, just to show, or to ask for clarity on how is the policy as written implemented, carried out by the administration down to the teachers? And then are there communications that are going out to parents? Are there educations that, what are those steps? Because right now it's about the policy. Is there anything in there from a direction standpoint to the admin that's either incorrect or against what people want? It's not down into the process here. It's more high level policy. But if you don't like the way something like letter C that you pointed out as an example, let's say it says allowed by the teacher as part of the assignment. If you had a fundamental problem with that, just as an example, you could say, no, I have a problem with that. I don't think it should be used for anything, and that's maybe something as a policy, as a board, we need to look at, so I would like this to go back to committee. That would be a very rational thing, and it would be just, and you should do it then, if that's what you believe. But if it's on the implementation side and the communication out to teachers or parents and families, that's more of a follow-up operation discussion. Unless I'm reading something incorrectly.
No, that makes sense, I appreciate that. I think there was just one other one with the 504 plans, disability and accessibility exceptions in this policy.
In this same one, we're still on the same one?
Yes, I'm still in this. Accessibility, letter E, page 35. So while accessibility is like addressed, and these might be part of their 504s or IEPs, I think and I guess maybe since Neola looked at it, it's fine. But something saying that it should be applied in a consistent manner with their IEP and 504 plan.
And this one, Neola added or using technology to their piece, so that was their addition to the line, because we have the current line, it's just adding the.
Yeah, and again, I don't have the current stuff, so I don't know what was added, and I don't understand green and red and crossed off and underlined, and could I have a legend next time for that?
Yeah, usually maybe but basically I think red was a choice that you have to make.
Yeah.
And then green was addition, and then there's yellow, which is new, so if you
Oh, I haven't seen
the
that.
yellow would be like a policy name, that was a new policy that would be in, put in front.
So when you say green is all stuff you added.
Green is, additions from Neola.
Okay,
Not from committee.
thank you.
These are Neola updates.
I missed that point.
Yeah,
That's why I was questioning all of it.
I
thought it was
believe,
you guys.
other than selection, everything else is from Neola.
Well, I'm sorry I wasted your time.
Oh, no.
That could have avoided all these questions for the last
Hey, it's all right.
20 minutes. I apologize about that.
No.
That wasn't on the orientation checklist.
Welcome to the board.
I am good to go. I've asked all my million questions. Don't think it will be the last.
All right, so then from this discussion, what I heard was that 561001, 561003, there was some questions there with things being filled.
I don't think the 01 was just a parent or legal guardian thing.
No, that was
I mean,
03. 03
That was
was the
who are we
parent legal,
selecting?
well, parent
Is it
legal guardian is, 01 is the one that wasn't selected.
I did print it off and it says board president
Oh,
On which one?
on
5610?
561001.
Okay, so. we
Board
got that.
president is designated
is that what we currently have
the
as?
hearing officer. I don't know, I'm not on the committee, I just printed it off when you were talking about it.
Did
No,
you print
thank
it out
you.
from our site or from
Yeah.
the, okay,
From
sorry,
from
President.
board
so
officer.
that's probably our old one, we,
Yeah, I don't recall.
So it very well could be.
let's take that one back anyways for this update, I think that makes sense.
The 561001?
Yeah, because it was missing that piece in what presented here,
Okay,
so we can pull 561001, 561003, still a question there regarding the,
Parent legal guardian, but that could be, Matt did point out the definitions.
okay, so we could take that one
I'd
out.
suggest just taking that concept just back.
Yeah.
You guys figure out if it's gotta be in there somewhere else. It can't just be an oversight from the old somewhere, would be my guess.
and those are the types of things I think that'll end up happening naturally in time with policy. Right now, over the last 12 months, it's been just trying to read through and get continuity between WASB and the new Neola. And then this version was to update all of the things that have been pushed from Neola since we started that process. And then once we clean those up and either adopt or change, then I would say the next level usually would be going into, okay, now are there things in there that we have an issue with?
Okay.
Those would be great things, and again, that could
Fair
easily
enough.
be addressed at the next policy meeting anyway.
Okay.
So I think that's a really good question, because that could be one across the board where normally they have district administrator, Neola a lot of times put district administrator. We refer to everything here as superintendent. So during the policy review last year, it was assumed that anywhere in there it said district administrator, they were gonna do a sweep update of all changes to superintendent. So that could be something later down the road. If it said parent, it could say parent or legal guardian,
Yeah.
they could do a sweep on it
Perfect.
for all.
Okay, I guess on the same terms, after Amy Hawley is gone, is her title the same, is carrying over to the new person, or what?
I don't believe so. From the conversations I've had, that is not.
Okay, and maybe this is a different section of asking those questions.
I think it's a business administrator, right? That's it.
I'm not good with that.
I can ask at a different time.
I'd say that'll come to us pretty soon.
So 561003 was expulsion. Did you send that one back?
I think the only one on the expulsion was just the one where we have an option, unless, and because that, I think you said you wanted option 1 to 10. And from what I heard, that's the only one that maybe needs to be pulled.
561001, I'm sorry, 03 was expulsion. So it's 561001, we'll take, and 5703 was, the 03 was expulsion, I had it listed.
Yep.
What was the note on that one?
03?
Yep.
Right.
Just the parent legal
That's just the
guardian.
parent legal guardian, so I don't.
So we'll just pull that.
Well, no, I don't think you need to pull it.
No,
Because that's, okay.
That's just kind of.
So the
blanket.
561003, we don't have to pull.
no,
Nope, just
Okay.
1001. Who are we identifying?
Okay, whew, there we go. So now, what I'd be looking for, if there's no other comments on policy specific in those three, would be a motion to approve the 2000, 5000, and 6000 series excluding policy 561001 that would go back to committee for review. Do I have a motion on the floor? Oh,
Do you want to add the other ones that were already pulled out of there, but they're listed in that
you don't have a
sheet? So when I look at the combined, they're still in that combined.
Yeah, there's been no motion. I was just asking the question as
Okay.
if someone wanted to say so moved.
I
Yes.
would move to motion to approve the proposed policies while pulling out and sending 561001, 2210, 2413, 513601, and 6235 back to committee.
Second.
Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? The motion carries to approve policies in the 2000, 5000, and 6000 series excluding 561001, 2210, 2413, 5636, 513601, .01, and 6235, which will go back to committee for review. All right, discussion and decision on those four pulled.
I think it's a discussion now since we did a decision with the other one, because it was kind of a never forward.
But is there something you want to
I
discuss?
just want to, the reason we pulled these in 2210, there was a question on how often that the superintendent would bring the information in front of the board, and it said either periodically or annually. And we were looking for guidance on the board on that question. And this is regarding
Curriculum of
development.
page 3, right? The
Yes.
district administrator shall make progress reports to the board periodically.
Yeah, what's the definition of periodically?
It just means.
So this is one reason we pulled this back to discussing committee, just to see what we wanted, but we did want to ask if the board had any thoughts on that piece.
what entails, oh wow, what are the progress reports and how detailed are they?
What my recommendation would be for this, because depending on how the curriculum review process is set up and what's required based on this policy, is I would recommend sending that to committee and letting Tina have input when you have that discussion, because I think we'll find a lot.
Because according to they should still evaluate every 5 years, this is how much they're gonna update the board on that
Correct.
progress of that.
So I think after your discussion in the next policy meeting, you might, if you feel more comfortable having that timed outside of, say, periodically, you could say periodically, but not less than every, 3 years, whatever it might be. So that's just my
I'm good with
suggestion.
Yeah, I like
We
that.
don't have to, let me just ask something, since we've already pulled those out, but we don't have to do anything here.
No, just putting notes on these.
Theoretically, we could approve one of these if we got all comfortable with something. We can make another motion, correct?
We could, and it would supersede that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, we just for that one policy.
That's right.
So I'm just saying we don't need a motion around this 2210.
At the moment, those are all going back to committee unless
Got it.
during our discussion now, we think otherwise.
Got it.
Yep, you're correct.
2413 was really just access to materials regarding age for public health, or health education.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? What did you say?
So for health education, I'm sorry, I was trying to get to it.
It's on page 13.
Thank you.
Whoa.
Or 3 of 10?
I'm looking at this.
Oh, the second piece here.
Oh, sorry.
It's
I'm
on
still the
both, that's
original.
why we made that motion on the
got it,
last
got
one.
it.
Yeah.
We thought they were fully pulled. So there's a part that's crossed out that the district should notify parents in advance of instruction about the content and instruction given to the parents of the materials. So the question really was, when are the materials provided? When can parents see what the materials are provided for health and what age groups those are at? So we wanted to pull and get a better idea of that current process and just the board's aspect on the visibility to those. Because right now, if you decline, you can ask for it, but it didn't say it's available at any point or place.
Don't we have some policy that all of our stuff's available?
I think we do.
Like, I just wonder if do we do it, does it even matter if there's a separate one here? I was kind of under the impression that parents could generally ask for materials.
I do think so.
I believe so as well, and that's what I was hoping to confirm before we put this through.
Let me ask
Otherwise, I
you,
wanna make sure it's
at your
available.
meeting, was Tina at the meeting?
She was not at that one.
It was just the two of
Was
you?
filling in for Amy. We had 8.
Oh, okay, so that's why some of this stuff.
Yep.
Well, I would suggest, same thing you did with the last one, just have bounce it off Tina.
Yep, and then the third one there, which is technology and resources and electronic equipment. We were looking at this one and there was a question whether we want to keep adding technology to the list or if we wanted to just make a blank statement regarding all technology approved by school is okay, but not the ones that you have at home. And Matt, I don't know if you wanted to explain that a little bit more. Sorry, McNulty.
I'm like,
I saw him point at McNulty, so I knew he was talking.
Well, my discussion point there was more or less what Niels was alluding to in his public comment as well about the use of smart technology devices with the students for communication on the buses.
Yeah, I have the same thought. I mean, we have a lot of, the kids didn't have phone on the buses, we might not have caught that issue we had on the bus route. And we've got a lot of kids who walk and bike, and I don't think any of those parents want them to leave their cell phones at home to walk. So, but this suggests that you can't even have possession of a phone on campus at all, is how I read this, unless I'm missing something. So I don't like that concept. I'm totally in favor of you can't use them in the classroom and do, enforce what they've been enforcing this year, but I'm definitely not in favor of not allowing them on buses or walking or however you get to school. Like between home and school, if somebody's got a cell phone,
Yeah, what
they
does
should
it
be able to
matter?
have that cell phone.
so this will come in the update from the Capitol, but there's a bill that's being considered on cell phone devices in general, and the terminology that they're recommending is a new term. Instead of saying not at all at school, it's from bell to bell. That's what legislators are looking at now
That makes
as a
more sense.
recommendation. They really wanna push it local, but in general, I heard that and I went, oh, that sounds really clear, from bell to bell. No,
Yeah, because you wouldn't want to put a time saying 8 to 3 because what about half days?
right, and then you got it covered for on the way into school, the way home, walking to school.
Yeah,
But at least not bell to bell. I'm not suggesting that, I'm just giving you guys another
I like,
input. That you could probably do that, because that's a time thing, that's not messing with me over wording.
I agree with that. Was that why you guys were sending it back, or I thought I heard
There's
you
that, and then there's pieces on there that's got like a list of technologies. Do we
Yeah,
wanna just put
boom
something
boxes.
in there that's kind of all encompassing, or do you wanna keep adding stuff as it goes by? Like, we don't have smartwatches on, so that's something you wanna add on there. So then it's a policy you have to keep
I don't
up with the
know,
technology.
Is
I
there-
will not be the one to keep up with the list, I'll tell you that.
That's
Is-
kind of what it comes down to.
is there any recommendation from Neola saying, use this phrase and that encompasses, like,
That's kind of
because
what
we
they
don't have
there for
meta
options.
glasses on there. we don't have.
Anytime you come up with a phrase though, it's just gonna be,
Correct, I mean,
does this, some new technology, does that really fall under that?
I think we're gonna
That's why I don't
have,
wanna get too specific either.
Yeah, I
Because
get
if the new technology isn't on the list, then that's a loophole.
well, I mean, cause right now we don't have glasses, like the smart glasses or whatever.
Oh,
I-
geez, yeah.
No, but I mean, in my mind, so
These are just
look,
not smart at all.
look, in my mind, we don't have a policy at school that says you can't stab another kid. Right? There's no policy, but you can't do that, right? Like, there's a lot of stuff, not every single thing gets into a policy. Like, the teachers make rules and stuff, right? So it's like,
So that's why I say, if we start getting specific, we gotta stay with it and keep up with it, or we give it
you
more
could put
broad
some blanket
standards, yeah.
or other
then we can
electronic
look into the
devices
policies,
as
see what's
determined by
there.
administration.
Yeah.
Or something like that, some kind of catch-all.
Yeah.
I think I'd be fine with something like that.
And I think what you would do.
But my
then-
point is that the superintendent, whether we have a policy here or something or not, the superintendent can, and the principals can make rules that aren't necessarily codified in the number policy.
Right, but they'd have that to fall back on. when they-
Exactly, so
what's there.
if
So
you put some catch-all that some
Yeah.
other devices is defined by administration or something, maybe that does it, and then you don't have to feel like you have to keep up with this list.
No, I appreciate that, and I think we'll put the notes on for that one, we'll take it back, that's what's hoping to get from this conversation.
Yeah.
And then the last one is, sorry, is there any more on that one?
No, I'm good.
Last one was fund balance. And we were selecting an option, and this, the suggestion was number one, and to pick a percentage. Were you guys given an email regarding
Amy sent it
a
to us.
suggestion on what that looked like? Any questions on?
No, I mean, as Amy, the balance is always a moving target, because we'll get a bunch of funds in and it's huge, and then you pay them down and you don't get a tax payment and it's low, but the gist of it is we would be comfortable at 15%, we'd never dip below it, so I think it's fine to use that.
Right, and if we did, then the board would be involved, is basically what that would state, if we proved anything at that point of what's going on. So I think it gives you a catch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think upping it from 10 to 15 was a good choice, cause I asked Amy, you know, what have we historically been within the last, 10 years? And she gave historically, it's never been below 19. I mean, 19.29 and 14 was the lowest in the last 10 years that I'm seeing, so I think 15 is a comfortable, but yet still a good.
Right, especially with the moving things that are going on.
Correct.
It just gives us another opportunity to have visibility on something that we talk about.
I don't think there's a rush to pass it, let's just send it back next month.
No, I just want to get everyone's opinion on that piece before we sent that, and that's why we pulled it out, to make sure
Yeah,
that
I like
matched.
that.
Yep, that makes sense.
Okay.
Because it's at any point in the year, not just the end of the year.
Correct.
So there will be times that it might dip because of timing.
And at some point,
And that's just
there's a
what-
possibility of, do we need to get a loan? Do we need to,
Correct.
those are the questions that start to come through, and knowing where that
Yeah, and I think that that's a good,
conversation start.
I think that's a good, to allow us enough time to have that cushion of 15%.
So do you feel as if you guys have enough to go back with?
Yep, I think that's good, and I appreciate that we put on that.
And since those had already been covered in the previous action, there's no action that needs to be taken. All right, perfect. We can move on. Thank you, great job. All right, and we'll go into the president report. So committee chair assignment and what that was and why that got put on, as I realized in the first meeting, we didn't assign chairs. And just to be able to help with the report, I think natural attrition, it's kind of been absorbed, but I would like to ask for permission, Matt, if you would be kind enough as to chair the finance.
Yes.
Thank you. And Mr. Hagman, would you feel comfortable?
Sure.
Thank you. All right, we'll do that. Next, so the day at the Capitol. So what that is I went last week and met with different legislators at the Capitol and had a really good day meeting with some very influential people from Madison, both in the in the Assembly and in the Senate. Just so that you guys know who I met with the representative Amanda Nedweski from Kenosha, and she gave us a lot of information on, she has a finance background, and talked about the budget surplus. There's been a lot of conversation in the state around the budget surplus that Wisconsin has. And what she clarified for us that I thought was important for us to know too, It's just that that money is one-time money. It's not reoccurring. So when money is petitioned for it, if it's given, it's a one-time give thing. So that's why they've been, at least the legislators have been slow to divvy it out, because they know that whatever program they fund, that's one-time money. It's not repeat. It's not part of the budget. It's just an overflow. So that session was good to hear. Another one was Senator John Jagler, and he is in charge of the Senate Education Committee. So he gave a really nice presentation, talked with him. He talked about the cell phone bill that I mentioned earlier with that bell-to-bell language, which they're working on, so that was good. But their recommendations, it's sounding like, is that they're really pushing for local control. They might give some overarching recommendations, but they really want to see that be more local control. Both he and Joel Hitchens, did I say that right? Yeah, Kitchens from, I think he's up in Door County. So he's in the assembly in charge of the education committee. And both of them talked about school funding. And the good news is all of the different representatives, and there's more names that we met with and I met with one-on-one, are very aware of the funding challenges that face public schools. So that's good to know. They're listening, they hear. Where they're running into a little bit of a challenge is the veto that happened from Governor Evers last year to approve the $325 per year for 400 years. So raising taxes for 400 years. And on the surface, while that sounds good, the way that the representatives are looking at it is that may not have been the right solution, it may not have been enough. But now at least this is the sentiment they were telling me, that they're apprehensive about bringing bills forward because they don't know what that pen will do next.
So they don't want to do anything because they're afraid. Then they're not doing their jobs.
Again, that's just what it is, because they're afraid if it goes up onto the budget for discussion, if that line item, I'm gonna change that to 400 years. If that's considered approved, because that may go to the US Supreme Court for whether or not it was a legal thing. They're just nervous to put something back on the floor. At least that's the sentiment that he shared with me, that there's an apprehension to do any type of proposal for funding until that gets settled, whether or not it was a legal veto, because it could mean opening the door again to something else. I'm not telling you that's right or wrong. I'm just reporting back to you with what I'm being told. The other good thing was there was resounding support from them on special education funding as an initiative. So I was very pleased to hear that. I was not expecting that. I was gonna go in guns blazing asking for it and not expecting them to already say, no, we already know that's on our agenda. Wow, great news. Special education requires a lot of money that we don't get reimbursement. And I'll tell you this was very interesting. So I met with Chris Kapika's office, and I was meeting with his staff, and I explained the discrepancy and the challenge that public schools face with the reimbursement rate. Because we're at like 30-some%, right? Like 31, 32.
21.
We're over 30, but I don't remember exactly, 30, 30.5, 31, somewhere in there. Private schools are reimbursed around 90%. And when I told their office staff that, it was deer in headlight. No. And I said, yes. Really? Yes, which is kind of surprising.
Then they can say no, they don't have to take special education.
Right. So that I think helped open at least that office's eyes. But at least all of them were supportive and referenced a bill that will be coming to increase special education funding. So that's at least encouraging. On your talk earlier, Morgan, with the AI policy, got to meet with Julian Bradley. He's a senator, and he's in charge and chairs the Artificial Intelligence Committee, and was giving us an update on all the things that they are doing with AI. Lots of research. And talking to federal agencies, they asked for what other states are kind of leading the charge with AI policy in education. And he was told from the feds, well, Wisconsin is. So believe it or not, our assemblies and Senate are doing more work than other states, so that's good. What he did share is that there were 3 C states, Colorado, Connecticut, and California, that overreacted when AI came out and put in sweeping policies against it and just sweeping regulation. And now they're trying to backpedal it because they didn't understand it, didn't know what it was, overregulated it, now they're in a bunch of legal issues trying to fix it. So what their current recommendation is, cautiously, is they're gonna continue to do more research on AI and what does it mean long-term, and really push it down to the local level. So everything you said earlier is correct. And that gets into why I had been an advocate for this in the past and will still advocate for having someone come in that's an AI specialist and give us, the board, some guidance on AI. So that was good to hear. And then the last one was, got to meet with Cindy Duco's office as well. And we talked about the possibility of joint listening sessions, where maybe some of the representatives would come and do a listening session with our district, in combination with Arrowhead. So it was good. So that's all specific to say public school in general. The other thing that's coming, and this will come in the next update, the overview of the joint meeting, is they brought up the bill that'll be coming for consolidation support. And that is something that they are looking heavily at and that they want to incentivize financially districts. And I know that was part of the overview that Ron Russ gave, so I'll let you guys talk about that in a second. So that's there too. So it sounds like there's a lot of good things happening with education. The people that are chairing the committees right now are listening, they're interested, and they're working. So that's what I have for that. Any questions on today? Okay. Next, the discussion on the feeder schools joint meeting. So for the public, this was the second meeting of all of the feeder districts in Arrowhead together to talk about school finance in general. What does it mean, financial education, and then consolidation, consideration, and what does it mean? How does it work? What is it? And then the presentation was given by Jeff Gross from Arrowhead on the finances, and Ron Russ, the superintendent of Merton, on the what, the how, the when, and how long it takes. This is the second meeting that's happened now in 50 years, roughly. There was one a few months ago. Myself, Tiffany, and Kim Schubert from Arrowhead had kind of organized and brought them together. This was the second follow-up meeting. It was very well attended, and at this point I'd like to turn it over to the board members who were there to be able to share their thoughts.
Well, I can share. I mean, the first half was Jeff Gross. It wasn't really consolidation focused. It was more just kind of basics of school finance.
That's the best part.
It was very informative. I mean, it kind of teed up why so many schools are in financial trouble, to explain the funding formula historically and how it hasn't kept up with inflation and why so many schools are forced to go to referendum. The second step was Ron Russ talking more logistically on what that consolidation would look like. And it's a bit different if two like Arrowhead feeders, so 2 K-8 schools or 3 K-8 schools want to get together and merge. That's a process. If Arrowhead and all 7 feeder schools want to get together and merge, that's a little bit different process. Correct me if I'm wrong, but as I understood it at the K-8 district, it could happen without even going to a public discussion. It could basically, if all the boards said, yeah, we want to do it, you can do it. The public could come forward with a petition, and I think if they got like 10% of the voters or something, then it could force a referendum to vote on it. Or the boards could say, yeah, we want to do it, but I want buy-in from the public. It can go. So that's how the K piece would work. There are some funds right now for merging, but it's $150 per kid per year for like 5 or 6 years, which sounds like a lot of money maybe, but we have 1,000 kids, so 150 kids, $150,000, and you're not building a new wing with $150,000, so it would certainly help some money, but it wouldn't make, so the money isn't a reason to do something like that. The interesting thing I heard at the Arrowhead, if everybody combined, is that if you got 50, I think it was 55% of the property values
Something like that, yeah.
voted in favor of doing it, it could force all the schools to do it.
That's correct.
So
Hostile takeovers.
basically, like if Merton and Hartland-Lakeside got together, they'd probably be pretty close to half, given the size of the other districts. You might have to co-op one in, but theoretically, those three, some number could actually force everybody else to do it, which was an interesting concept. But the big takeaway coming out of it was, well, what's next? What do we do? We can keep getting together to talk about this. Should we? What they asked us to go back to each individual board and do is not say, yeah, I want to go consolidate and let's go figure it out. Is your board comfortable being part of continuing discussions to take it a step further and to continue this? Or are you just like, no, we'd never vote for it, I don't want to be part of those discussions? So I don't know how we do it. I would recommend as a board that we say, yes, we're interested in having those discussions and not be committed to anything other than learning more and also hearing if others are interested. And if they are, in my mind, the steps are, what does that look like? Is it a couple Ks get together? Is it the whole shooting match getting together? Who's interested? Who would want to do that? So, I mean, Matt, McNulty, and Morgan were there. You guys got anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, you basically hit it on the head there. Yeah. We're starting the discussion, it was a information only meeting. Is there interest? And if there is interest, let's start talking collectively.
I think the only thing I thought about was, we could say hypothetically, feeder school A and feeder school B were in discussion to merge, but then all of a sudden a hostile takeover for the Arrowhead big guy comes along and says, nah, you did a lot of work, but you don't mean anything because we're gonna do the hostile takeover. I didn't like that and that didn't sit well with me. And I'm curious how that gets avoided.
I don't think it does.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Legally, you can't.
You can't.
I understand that, but I mean, that is time and resources that schools are using. Should that be considered then?
I think that.
And I don't think a hostile takeover should happen.
Right.
I think it should be agreements between everyone. I don't think that sets it up to be a good start.
No, but that's part of the discussion, right?
Right.
I think the other thing I've watched is if you acquire school by school, you get an extension of those.
The 150, yep.
You don't wanna do it all at once,
you don't get that.
That's what I was thinking, was like, you just kind
The
of
other thing I
go,
thought that was interesting, if you did year after year versus all at once.
Yeah.
You lose out on something.
you wouldn't wanna do more than 2 at a time because you lose.
But like Matt said, it's not a big dollar, it just.
No.
But still,
Every little bit.
it's still something, and it's on top of what we have. And there are winners and losers, he did say that, and he made sure to point that out.
Well, there would be winners and losers because basically the
Property
tax base
tax.
gets reset, so if you're higher or lower, they're gonna equalize. He did say though that, with the legislator addressing the budget, they're looking at ways to make it so there aren't winners and losers, or maybe those winners and losers get phased in, there's something that can help solve that problem for districts, because as you said, Ron Rust?
Mhm.
He thought there was a strong desire of the legislators to cut down the number of districts in Wisconsin. So I guess the other thing I didn't mention that came out of the meeting, which is true as well, is that, I think the Stone Bank member brought up the point that, look, consolidation is tough, but let's not also abandon discussions about better ways we can work together to share resources or whatever, maybe better plan a curriculum, those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So but do we need to do anything to say, yes, we're interested in?
Because we're not taking anything more than a temperature, we don't have to take action, we're not taking action to pursue. So if we were to vote to pursue consolidation, that's a totally different thing.
Right.
If we're just saying, yes, collectively, we'd like to continue the conversation, I think that's all we
And
need.
does everybody agree we should collectively continue the conversation?
I would agree.
Absolutely. 100%.
Perfect.
But I'm more in line with the Stone Bank comment, actually, with let's crawl before we run. And prime example, you've got that beautiful display.
Right, and I will
Let's
say
have a
that,
conversation about that. Maybe someone else does.
yep, I think bringing that up in every discussion is gonna be something we have to do,
Yep.
or we should do, not have to do.
Because I think Matt might have said it once, maybe it was the first meeting, first general assembly, but you'll start to see that as you work more together, the progression, the natural progression would be consolidation over time. We start asking questions about other districts that might be interested in that might use audit services, that might do the roof. And we start saying yes, and all of a sudden, Stone Bank needs a roof too. Well, we could save $10,000, $15,000 on our roof if they do theirs and contract for next year. Once those cooperative efforts start happening and we start to see the cost savings, and our community starts to see the cost savings, I think they're gonna be much more in support of going down that road. So starting with cooperation, collaboration, and consistency, I think would be a great first step. So I'm fully in support of it.
Yeah, I mean, most of us, I think the next meeting was gonna be in August sometime, that's like the 20th, I don't know.
I did write it down, I think it was
Thursday,
August
the 20-something.
21st, let me look. August 21st,
It's a Thursday, right?
Thursday night.
Yeah, so that,
If anyone would like to join,
Oh yeah, 6:30.
6:30. Okay, anything else with that line item? Thank you guys, thank you for being there, thank you for attending, I appreciate it greatly. Okay, future meetings, future board or chair committee items.
I'd like to put on the CISA, I attended that on Tuesday, and I'd like to give an update next month on that one.
Thank you.
I think it's going to be on our agenda, but just the portrait of a graduate, so that we've been talking about, and then we had some stuff come up, but excited to hear the progress on that.
And these don't have to be isolated to say next month, they can just be topics for conversation. I'd like to reiterate, I think I kind of undertoned it today, but I'd like to reiterate it again. I would like to see a presentation to the board from a professional on AI. I really think that that's something, given where AI is going, that we should get cutting edge, first rate access to what's happening.
I might be able to help with that, so maybe you can find something that I'm currently working with.
Okay.
At least give you a presentation.
you're not the AI guru yourself?
No.
And I know that at one point I had introduced Tiffany to CEO of a AI company as well. And they had conversations last year, but I don't know if things just never worked out with schedule for him to come, but he was prepared to do it pro bono and just come and provide access to the board, so. Yeah. Anything else from the committees that you need? Okay. Then we'll move on to PPC committee meeting in June.
Could do the 11th, 8:30.
Let's do it.
June 11th?
Yep.
And what time?
8:30 a.m.
It's the first day of summer.
Do you think that's what you're gonna stick with? 8:30?
You mean permanent?
Just asking for someone I know.
Is that you?
For the foreseeable,
For the PPCs you're gonna be there for?
taking notes, yes.
Oh, okay.
Which is fine, I'm here, it works for me, I just, planning purposes. Do you think that's your time period? Cause in the past, it's been like 4
In the
o'clock.
past, my schedule was
All over
awful,
the
so I
place?
could never give a permanent.
You don't have to commit to it.
I think,
It just, for like the next 2 months, can you commit to like an 8:30 AM?
I would prefer an 8:30 AM meeting.
Awesome, me too,
Would you?
cool.
oh, you're good with this. I
I'm
thought you
great
were
with
trying
this.
to change. I'm
Oh.
sorry.
Oh,
I'm great
I
with this.
misunderstood that.
I'm
Yeah,
great
if you
with
wanna go earlier, I'm good too,
Oh,
so.
oh.
I'm
Calm down,
here,
calm down.
and I'm here.
No.
No, I'm good,
That should
I'm
be
good.
illegal.
Okay, sorry, I wasn't supposed to talk out of turn.
no, for
If you're part of the meeting, that's all right.
Yeah, I'm not
process
really.
and
Okay,
timing,
thank you.
absolutely, we appreciate it. Great. Finance, is that already good to go?
Yeah, we're locked in now.
Okay. And the next school board meeting, I don't believe there's been any change, correct? Still on the 16th?
Still time.
Great. All right. So at this point, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn into executive session per Wisconsin statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. The purpose of this closed session will be to discuss the superintendent goals and measurables.
I motion to adjourn to executive,
You don't have to repeat, I'm saying looking for that motion, you can say as moved.
as moved.
All right, Morgan is moved.
Sure.
For that?
I didn't know that was a thing. Love it.
Always learn new things.
Yeah.
For efficiency. Chris Haglund said. Chris Haglund said.
Haven, yeah.
Yep. Any discussion?
No.
I also have learned that if we have a unanimous vote, we do not need to roll call vote. All those in favor of moving into closed session, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. We are now in closed session.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You dropped your bottle cap.
Oh, thank you.